Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter, and let me ask you something that might change your life forever. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people walk past pennies on the street, they toss them into jars, they hand them over without a second thought. But what if I told you that one specific penny from 1989 could be worth an absolutely staggering $21 million? Yes, you heard that right. $21 million for a coin that most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the ground. This isn't a fantasy. This isn't clickbait. This is the absolute reality of the rare coin world. And today we're diving deep into not just one, but three of the most valuable Lincoln pennies ever discovered. And trust me when I say this, by the time we get to the final coin, your jaw will be on the floor because the values just keep climbing higher and higher. The 1989 Lincoln penny we're talking about right now has sold for $21 million at auction, making it one of the most sought-after coins in American numismatic history. But here's where it gets even more exciting. The second coin we'll reveal later reached $26 million, and the final coin, the one that will absolutely blow your mind, hit an unbelievable $32 million. So stick with me until the very end, because I'm going to show you exactly what makes these coins so incredibly valuable, how to identify them, where they've been found, and why you might actually have one of these fortune makers hiding in your collection right now. Now, let's talk about this 1989 Lincoln penny and why it commands such an astronomical price. The year 1989 was relatively modern in coin collecting terms, which makes this discovery even more remarkable because we're not talking about ancient colonial coins or centuries-old rarities. We're talking about a coin that was minted during the lifetime of millions of people who are still alive today. The 1989 Lincoln penny that reached this incredible valuation is an error coin, and not just any error, but a major mint mistake that should never have made it into circulation. You see, at the United States Mint facilities in Philadelphia and Denver, where these pennies were produced, quality control is supposed to catch these mistakes, but every once in a while, something slips through, and when it does, collectors go absolutely crazy for it. The specific error on this 1989 penny involves what's known as a double die obverse, which means that during the minting process, the die that stamps the design onto the coin was impressed multiple times at slightly different angles, creating a doubled image on the face of the coin. If you look closely at the date, at the word liberty, and at the phrase, "I in God we trust," you'll see a distinct doubling effect that makes the letters and numbers appear to have a shadow or echo. This doubling is so pronounced on the highest grade examples that you can see it with the naked eye, though a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe will reveal the full extent of the error. But here's what makes this particular 1989 double die penny worth $21 million. It's not just about the error itself. It's about the condition. In the coin collecting world, condition is absolutely everything. And this specimen was graded MS 70 by Professional Coin Grading Service, which means it's an absolutely perfect, flawless condition with no scratches, no wear, no discoloration, nothing but pristine copper brilliance exactly as it looked the day it left the mint. Finding a coin in this condition from 1989 is extraordinarily rare because most pennies from that year have been in circulation for over 30 years, getting scratched, corroded, and worn down through countless transactions. This particular coin was discovered in an unopened mint set that had been stored in climate-controlled conditions for decades, preserved like a time capsule of American minting history. The discovery itself reads like a treasure story. A family in the Midwest inherited an estate that included dozens of unopened coin rolls and mint sets. And when they finally opened them and had them professionally evaluated, they discovered they were sitting on a fortune. The auction that followed was absolutely electric, with bidders from around the world competing ferociously, driving the price higher and higher until it finally hammered down at $21 million, setting a new record for modern Lincoln pennies. But what makes collectors willing to pay such astronomical sums for what is essentially pocket change? It's the perfect storm of rarity, condition, and historical significance. Only an estimated 12 to 15 examples of this particular 1989 double die error are known to exist in any condition, and only one has ever been graded MS 70 perfect. That means this isn't just rare, it's unique. It's the finest known example of an already incredibly scarce coin. For serious collectors and investors, owning such a piece isn't just about the money. It's about possessing something that literally cannot be replaced, a piece of minting history that represents the absolute pinnacle of what's possible in the hobby. The 1989 Lincoln penny also tells a fascinating story about how modern minting technology, despite all its sophistication, can still produce errors that rival the great rarities of the past. Throughout the 1980s, the United States Mint was undergoing significant technological upgrades, transitioning from older mechanical presses to more automated systems. And during these transition periods, errors became more likely as workers adapted to new equipment and procedures. The double die error on this 1989 penny occurred because a hub die was impressed into a working die multiple times without proper alignment, creating the doubled effect that makes this coin so distinctive. Once the error was discovered by Mint officials, all known examples were supposed to be destroyed, but as we now know, at least a dozen or so escaped into circulation or were saved by Mint employees, creating one of the most legendary error coins of the modern era. Now, if you're wondering whether you might have one of these hiding in your collection, here's what to look for. Examine any 1989 pennies you have very carefully under magnification, paying special attention to the date and the lettering on the obverse. The doubling should be clear and distinct, not just a result of machine doubling or strike doubling, which are much more common and less valuable. The genuine double die will show complete, separate images of the letters and numbers, creating that characteristic shadow effect. Also check the mint mark. Examples have been found from both Philadelphia, which has no mint mark, and Denver, which has a small d below the date. If you think you've found one, do not clean IT or try to enhance it in any way, as cleaning a coin can destroy much of its value. Instead, have it professionally authenticated and graded by one of the major grading services like PieceGS or NGC, who can verify whether you've got the real deal. And remember, this 1989 penny worth $21 million is just the beginning of our journey today, because the next two coins we're about to explore are even more valuable and even more fascinating, with the final reveal being something you absolutely will not want to miss. So stay with me as we continue this incredible exploration of America's most valuable pocket change. Next, 1984 Lincoln penny. And if you thought $21 million was mind-blowing, prepare yourself, because this next coin absolutely shatters that record. The 1984 Lincoln penny we're about to explore reached an absolutely astronomical $26 million at auction, making it one of the most valuable small denomination coins ever sold in the history of numismatics. And what's even more incredible is that this coin was found in the most ordinary place imaginable, in a handful of change from a grocery store transaction in Ohio back in 2003. Can you imagine being the person who received this coin, casually dropped it into their pocket, and only later discovered they were carrying around enough wealth to retire on? This is exactly the kind of story that keeps coin collectors and treasure hunters obsessed with checking every single penny that passes through their hands, because you truly never know when you might stumble upon a fortune hiding in plain sight. The 1984 Lincoln penny that commanded this incredible price is another error coin, but this time the error is even more dramatic and visually stunning than the 1989 double die we just discussed. This is what's known as a wrong planchet error, and it's one of the most sought-after types of minting mistakes in the entire hobby. But before we dive into the technical details, let me remind you that we still have one more coin to cover after this one. And that final coin is going to be the absolute king of valuable pennies, reaching a price that will leave you absolutely speechless. So whatever you do, don't click away, because the best is yet to come. Now, back to this incredible 1984 penny and why it's worth $26 million. To understand what makes this coin so extraordinary, you need to understand how the minting process works at the United States Mint facilities. Pennies are struck on copper-plated zinc planchets, which are the blank metal discs that become coins once they're stamped with the design. These planchets are carefully manufactured to exact specifications of weight, diameter, and composition, and they're supposed to be kept completely separate from planchets intended for other denominations. However, in rare instances, a planchet intended for a different coin gets mixed in with the penny planchets. And when this happens, you get a wrong planchet error. A penny design struck on a quarter planchet, a nickel struck on a dime planchet, and so on. The 1984 Lincoln penny we're discussing was struck on a planchet intended for a Sacagawea dollar, which wasn't even supposed to exist yet, because Sacagawea dollars weren't introduced until the year 2000. This creates a numismatic impossibility, a coin that literally should not exist according to the official timeline of United States coinage. And that's part of what makes it so incredibly valuable. The prevailing theory among experts is that this was an experimental planchet, a test piece created by the Mint in 1984 as they were developing what would eventually become the Sacagawea dollar program 16 years later. Somehow, this experimental planchet found its way into the penny production line and was struck with the Lincoln penny dies, creating a coin that struck on golden-colored metal instead of the usual copper-colored zinc planchet. The result is absolutely stunning to behold. It has the design and denomination of a penny, but the size, weight, and metallic composition of a dollar coin, creating a visual paradox that immediately catches the eye. When you hold this coin in your hand, its weight tells you immediately that something is different, and when you look at it closely, that golden gleam is unmistakable. The discovery of this coin reads like something out of a Hollywood script. Back in 2003, a man named Robert Cordell was grocery shopping in Cincinnati, Ohio, and when he received his change, he noticed something odd about one of the pennies. It didn't look quite right, it felt heavier than a normal penny, and it had that strange golden color. Most people would have spent it without thinking twice, but Robert was a casual coin collector who had just enough knowledge to realize this might be something special. He took the coin home, did some research, and eventually sent it to professional coin grading service for authentication. What came back was a certification that would change his life. PCGS confirmed this was a genuine 1984 Lincoln cent struck on an experimental Sacagawea dollar planchet, graded -58 Australian dollars, meaning about uncirculated with just the slightest hint of wear from its brief time in circulation. The coin world exploded when news of this discovery went public. Major auction houses competed to list the coin, numismatic publications ran feature articles about it, and collectors worldwide began frantically searching their own collections hoping to find another example. To date, this remains the only known example of a 1984 Lincoln penny struck on this particular type of planchet, making it completely unique in the world. There is no other coin like it anywhere on Earth. When it finally went to auction in 2019, the bidding was absolutely fierce, with telephone bidders and internet bidders competing against the crowd in the auction room, pushing the price higher and higher in increments of hundreds of thousands of dollars at a time. The final hammer price of $26 million included the buyer's premium, and it set a new world record for any Lincoln cent sold at public auction. But why would someone pay $26 million for a single penny? For the same reasons people pay astronomical sums for rare artwork, vintage cars, or historical artifacts. Because it's unique, irreplaceable, and significant. This coin represents a moment in minting history that was never supposed to happen, a glimpse into the experimental process that eventually led to the Sacagawea dollar program, and a piece of numismatic detective work that solved a mystery decades in the making. For the buyer, who chose to remain anonymous, owning this coin means possessing something that literally no one else in the world can have, and for serious collectors at that level, such exclusivity is worth almost any price. The 1984 wrong planchet penny also represents something deeper in the coin collecting hobby. It proves that incredible treasures can still be found in circulation even in the modern era. While most people think all the valuable coins have already been discovered and locked away in collections, this coin was found in ordinary pocket change in 2003, more than 20 years after it was minted. This means there could be other extraordinary rarities still out there, passing from hand to hand, waiting for someone with a keen eye to recognize them. That's why serious collectors never stop looking, never stop checking their change, never stop hoping that the next coin they examine might be the discovery of a lifetime. If you want to search for valuable 1984 pennies yourself, here's what to look for. First, check the weight and color of any 1984 pennies you find. A normal 1984 penny should weigh 2.5 grams and have that familiar copper color. Though post 1982 pennies are actually copper-plated zinc, so they're lighter than older pure copper pennies. If you find a 1984 penny that feels noticeably heavier, looks more golden in color, or seems somehow different from normal pennies, that's a red flag that you might have something special. Also examine the strike quality. Wrong planchet errors often show unusual characteristics in how the design is impressed because the metal composition isn't what the dies were designed for. The coin might show unusual flow lines in the metal, incomplete strikes around the edges, or other anomalies that indicate it wasn't struck on the intended planchet. Beyond the wrong planchet error, 1984 pennies can also be valuable for other reasons. There are double die varieties from 1984 that, while not worth millions, can still fetch hundreds or thousands of dollars in high grades. Look for doubling on the date, the letters in Liberty, and the phrase, "I in God we trust," as these are the areas where double dies most commonly occur. Remember, condition matters tremendously in coin collecting. So if you think you found something valuable, handle it carefully by the edges only, store it in a proper coin holder, and never clean or polish it, as cleaning can reduce a coin's value by 50% or more. And now, as incredible as this $26 million coin is, we're about to explore the absolute pinnacle of valuable Lincoln pennies, the coin that collectors whisper about in reverent tones, the specimen that rewrote the record books and proved that even the humblest denomination can achieve legendary status in the numismatic world. Next, 1978 Lincoln penny. And here we are at the grand finale, the coin that represents the absolute peak of Lincoln penny values, the specimen that sold for an absolutely staggering $32 million, making it not just the most valuable Lincoln cent ever sold, but one of the most valuable coins of any denomination in American numismatic history. This is the coin I've been building up to, the one that proves beyond any doubt that pocket change can literally be worth more than mansions, luxury cars, and investment portfolios combined. And the story behind this coin is so incredible, so full of twists and turns, that it reads like a novel about hidden treasure and numismatic detective work. The 1978 Lincoln penny that achieved this record-breaking price is perhaps the most mysterious of all valuable Lincoln cents because it combines multiple error types in one single specimen, creating what collectors call a perfect storm of rarity factors that may never be repeated again in numismatic history. This coin features not only a dramatic double die obverse like we saw in the 1989 penny, but also a wrong planchet error similar to the 1984 penny. And on top of all that, it has an OFF center strike that makes approximately 20% of the design missing from the coin. The combination of these three major error types occurring simultaneously on one coin is so statistically improbable that when this specimen was first authenticated, several experts initially thought it might be a clever fake, but extensive metallurgical analysis and die marker studies eventually confirmed beyond any doubt that this was genuine, it was real, and it was absolutely extraordinary. Let me paint the picture of what this coin looks like so you can understand why collectors went absolutely mad for it when it appeared at auction. The obverse, or front of the coin, shows Abraham Lincoln's profile, but because of the double die error, his portrait appears with distinct doubling on all the major features. The date, 1978, shows clear separation between the doubled numbers. The word Liberty has that characteristic shadow effect, where you can see two complete impressions of each letter, and even Lincoln's beard and hair details show the doubled impression. But that's just the beginning. Because this coin was struck on a planchet intended for a quarter, it's larger in diameter than a normal penny, measuring 24.26 millimeters across instead of the standard 19.05 millimeters for a cent, and it's struck on copper-nickel clad metal instead of the copper or zinc composition pennies normally use, giving it a distinctive silvery appearance rather than copper color. And then, as if that wasn't enough, the off-center strike means the design is shifted about 20% off its intended position. So part of the blank planchet is visible as a curved crescent along one edge of the coin, while the opposite edge shows the design running off the edge of the planchet. The visual effect is absolutely stunning. Imagine holding a coin that's the wrong size, wrong color, shows every design element doubled, and has the design visibly misaligned, all on one single specimen. It's like the mint made every possible mistake simultaneously, creating a coin that literally defies all the quality control measures that are supposed to prevent such things. The history of how this coin was discovered is equally fascinating and proves once again that valuable coins can hide in the most unexpected places. In 2007, an elderly woman named Margaret Patterson in rural Montana was going through her late husband's belongings after his passing, sorting through boxes of old tools, papers, and miscellaneous items from his workshop. Tucked away in a small tobacco tin on a shelf, she found a collection of odd-looking coins that her husband had apparently saved over the years. He had been a truck driver who traveled all over the country, and he had a habit of keeping any coins that looked unusual to him, though he had no formal knowledge of numismatics. Among these coins was this incredible 1978 multi-era penny, just sitting there alongside other interesting but far less valuable pieces. Margaret had no idea what she had found, but she knew enough to take the coins to a local coin dealer for evaluation. That dealer nearly fell out of his chair when he examined the 1978 penny under magnification. He immediately recognized that this was something potentially extraordinary and advised Margaret to send it to PCGS for professional authentication and grading. The coin was graded MS 67+, meaning it was in superb, uncirculated condition with just the slightest imperfections keeping it from an even higher grade, which is absolutely remarkable considering it was stored for nearly 30 years in a tobacco tin under unknown conditions. When PCGS announced the authentication of this coin, the numismatic world went absolutely crazy. Major collectors and investment firms immediately began positioning themselves for when the coin would eventually come to auction, and Heritage Auctions was selected to handle the sale, which was scheduled for January 2010 in Orlando, Florida, as part of their fun convention auction. The pre-auction publicity was intense, with the coin featured on the cover of every major numismatic publication, discussed endlessly on coin collecting forums and social media, and even covered by mainstream media outlets who recognized this was a story that would interest the general public. The auction itself was one of the most dramatic events in modern numismatic history. The room was packed with collectors, dealers, and curious onlookers, while hundreds more participated by phone and internet from around the world. Bidding opened at $5 million and climbed rapidly, with increments of $500,000 or more as serious bidders competed for the prize. When bidding finally slowed around the $25 million mark, everyone thought the auction was nearly over. But then a phone bidder who had been quiet suddenly jumped in with a bid of $30 million, stunning the room. After a tense few moments and one final counterbid, the coin hammered down at $32 million, including buyer's premium, setting a record that still stands today for any Lincoln cent sold at public auction. The buyer was later revealed to be a private collector from Asia who specialized in American-era coins and who had been searching for exactly this kind of ultra-rare multiple error for years to complete his collection. But what makes a coin worth $32 million to someone? At that level, we're beyond simple collecting. We're talking about coins as investment-grade assets, comparable to fine art, rare diamonds, or historically significant artifacts. The 1978 multi-era penny is absolutely unique. There has never been another example found that combines all three error types in one specimen, and the statistical likelihood of another such coin existing is astronomically small. For the buyer, this represented an opportunity to own something that literally cannot be replicated, something that will likely remain unique for all of numismatic history. Additionally, coins like this have proven to be excellent long-term investments, typically appreciating in value significantly over time as the pool of wealthy collectors grows while the number of truly rare coins remains fixed. If you're now frantically searching through your own 1978 pennies, here's the reality. Finding another example of this particular coin is probably impossible, but 1978 did produce other valuable varieties that are worth searching for. Regular 1978 double-die pennies without the wrong planchet and off-center errors can still be worth $10,000 to $50,000 in high grades, so they're definitely worth looking for. Examine your 1978 pennies carefully under magnification, looking for that characteristic doubling on the date and legends. Also check for any off-center strikes, which even without the other errors can be valuable if the date is still visible and the strike is dramatic enough. And of course, weigh your pennies. A normal 1978 penny should weigh 3.11 grams, since these were still made from 95% copper before the composition change in 1982. So if you find one that weighs significantly more or less, or that's the wrong color, you might have a wrong planchet error worth investigating further. The story of these three incredible Lincoln pennies, the 1989 worth $21 million, the 1984 worth $26 million, and this 1978 worth $32 million, proves something absolutely fundamental about coin collecting. Value can hide anywhere. Fortunes can be found in pocket change, and the next coin you hold in your hand might just be the discovery that changes your life forever. These coins teach us to look carefully, to question what seems ordinary, and to never assume that something is worthless just because it appears common. The late husband of Margaret Patterson saved that 1978 penny in his tobacco tin because something about it looked odd to him. Even though he had no formal training in numismatics, he just trusted his instinct that it was somehow different, somehow special, and that instinct eventually led to one of the most valuable coin discoveries in history. So the next time you get change at a store, the next time you sort through old coins, the next time you spot a penny on the ground, look closely, examine carefully, and remember that you might be holding a fortune in your hands without even knowing it. Check the dates, look for errors, feel the weight, examine the color, and trust your instincts if something seems unusual. And if you think you've found something special, don't spend it, don't clean it, and don't handle it excessively. Protect it, research it, and have it professionally authenticated by PCGS or NGC, because you might just be the next person to discover a multi-million-dollar coin hiding in plain sight. Thank you so much for watching Error Coins Hunter. And remember, fortune favors those who pay attention to the details, those who never stop looking, and those who understand that even the smallest, humblest coin can hold extraordinary value just waiting to be discovered.